There's a certain way that God does things individually in our own lives. He does those for a reason, so you can recognize when it's not from him. The Bible tells me that he'll bless the work of my hands. Of course, I'll do what I can do on a daily, but I know at the end of the day, he's gonna open up the opportunities for me that I know he wants me to take, because there's people in those arenas that he knows that me and my wife have to speak to. As your walk with God progresses, you just start to see and know and discern. I'm not the provider of my family, I'm the steward of the resources that God has blessed me with to provide for my family.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Audacious Faith Podcast. How exciting it is to be doing in-person one today. We've been doing a lot of Zoom across the country, but we are actually in Montclair, California right now, and I have some great guests that I've actually wanted to connect with for a while, so I'm so glad that we have the opportunity to be with them today. I want to tell you, when it comes to just like putting programs together, producing things, videos, whatever, they are top-notch on what they do, and they're actually also very strong people of faith. And so I'm excited to hear their story because there's a lot to it. So Chris and Antoinette Saveedra, right?
Yes.
I get that pretty much right. So glad you guys are able to join us today on the podcast. How are we doing?
Amazing.
Good. No, thank you for having us there. It's been a while to try to get this scheduled and,
Yes.
and shot, but I'm glad that God finally opened up some time for us to link up and get together.
Absolutely. I think that one thing that we're going to learn, and I'm sure we're going to talk about today, is God always knows the timing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So sometimes we think, oh, this is the time, and he says, no, it's not the time, and we get confused, but then later it makes sense, right?
Dang, you're convicting me early.
Well, a lot of things, I mean, they just do. So let's talk about that. I kind of want to get the background. It is a faith podcast, as well as, accomplishing things and all that. We put it all together. So I want our audience to kind of find out more too. Maybe even, how faith came to play in your guys' lives, how you guys met. Maybe tell us a little bit about as family, all of that.
How long is this podcast gonna be?
Well, that may take up half of it right there, but yeah.
It started with her, honestly, when it came to the faith part. So if you want to share that part.
Well, first and foremost, we met on MySpace.
Okay.
So
You're dating yourself right there.
Yes,
It's been a while.
absolutely. I DM'd him, so he loves me telling that story, of course. But I was not walking with God at the time at all. Neither of us were, and it was something that started out kind of crazy and very fast paced. So I could honestly say that neither of us were even ready for what came. I was actually addicted to drugs. I was on meth for like 10 years. And so he had no idea. Actually, most of the people around me had no idea. But I met him, and instantly I was like, oh my God, like that's my husband. And I never thought that about anybody. So it freaked me out a little bit. And we moved in 2 weeks after meeting, and we were pregnant 4 months in. So we did everything completely backwards. And with our first son, and we were married almost to the year of us being together.
Yeah.
And so we got married before I even gave birth to my son. And so it kind of spiraled from there. We were together, breaking up, and
We had no one even trying to like steer our marriage into like
anyway.
any kind of positive direction. We were completely led by the world and how the world works and sees like when couples are fighting, like, oh, just go out and get drunk, deal with the problems later, sweep it under the rug, it'll be fine.
Right.
And no, it was it was such a toxic marriage in the very beginning, because we didn't have any type of, like I said, like mentorship or what we stress to the young adults now today is, a biblical foundation of how a marriage should be.
Yeah.
And it just completely eroded and tore our marriage apart, and
We had our first kind of like separation. We were still living in the same house, but we had a little separation. I think it was like 2010. And he was working at a bank at the time in
Chino
Hills. And he met a woman, and she kind of prophesied into his life, which I didn't know about at the time. And then years later, I went to the gym and I gave a compliment to a woman, which I was already like not wanting to be there. All kinds of things were happening. And I met this woman, and she ended up prophesying over me, which I didn't know what prophecy was. And I looked at this woman like, who are you? Because how do you know anything about who I am? And so she wanted to connect with me. And she would always call me and try to get me to go to these places. And I'm like, why does she want to always like have me go? And he goes, just go. And he goes, but don't eat anything and don't drink anything, because he came from an experience of like a cultish type that his family went through. So one day I literally had nothing to do. And I took a shower, I got ready, and he goes, what are you getting ready for? I was like, I don't know. It's so weird. Like, I feel like I have to go somewhere. And she called me. And she took me into this home where I'm looking at all these people and I'm like, what is this? They were waving flags, they were singing to God. And I didn't know what any of this was. I've never seen it before. And so I kind of, I liked it. And I had an experience with God that day. And I didn't know how to move forward, but I knew that I wanted more of it. I struggled with fear for so much of my life that you would never know it. But it got taken away like that night. And I knew that I needed more of whatever this was. I need more of it. So I started to go. We ended up meeting our pastor, who we're still with today. And I started going. And I was like, come on, babe, let's go. And we had 2 kids at the time. And our oldest was 5. And then Esme was like a year and a half. And Chris started coming. And then all the weird stuff started happening in his eyes.
Yeah. So we were both raised Catholic. So it's a very different type of faith upbringing than, Christians. And so going to this house where these people were just on fire for God. I mean, just like crying out to him, dancing during worship, hands up, where I'm used to like
Don't move.
hymns, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so awkward. And so of course, like they're praying for people and I'm seeing these crazy, like unimaginable things happen, like when people who are truly like in line with God, like how prayer can heal and like miracles. And I'm like, oh heck no, this is straight up like witchcraft. I'm out of here. And this was like the second time I went and I'm like, I'm never going back. And so, but Antoinette, she had such a pulling to this place. And I'm like, you know what? You can go there on Thursdays. I'm gonna go to my church on Sundays, because like it's cool. The guy who speaks is like really funny and like I can go drink afterwards and feel no guilt or shame or condemnation. And so we did that for a better part of a year. And at the time I had really bad anger problems. Like I was just short for everything. And of course, like I said, I had no one to pour into me to show me how to be like a real like man of God, just a man in general. Growing up, my brother was a womanizer and my dad has been out of the picture since I was like 13. So I really had no one to kind of guide me. And so being resentful towards, not having that father figure, I just grew up pissed off all the time. And, punching holes in my wall. And then, of course, like me and my mom were always going at it because I blamed her for a lot of her and my dad not being together until, me and my mom kind of came to terms. And she was like literally like the love of my life. She was my best friend. And after she passed, that just got worse. And so, I just had so much pent up frustration and anger and resentment. And at that time when my mom had passed, I had, cursed God and I didn't want to have anything to do with him. And I was just so angry all the time. So as she's going to this church, Antoinette also, just to give you a little bit of backstory, when we would go out, she was the one who was literally, when they say, oh, like I fight my battles for like my spouse, she would physically fight my battles for me. So if anyone either tried to step to me or disrespect me, it was her hand that was literally throwing the first punch before anyone even, yeah. So,
I am.
oh man, you talking about slaying giants. Like, I kid you not, she would literally lay dudes out who are like 4 times my size. And I'm like 5'9", well, previously 330. And some of these dudes were just giants. And so to see her go from that to this loving, caring, amazing woman, I'm like, okay, she's happy all the time she's going to this place. There has to be another dude there. There has to be some guy making her happy and smiling. So of course, my crazy butt, I'm following her and she had no idea. I'm watching to see who's going in and out of the house. Like I was a psycho. And I'm going through her phone records. I'm going through her phone. I'm digging through. I'm trying to find something, expecting some dude to pop out of her bag, right? And I find nothing. And I'm like, dude, what is it? Why is she always happy? Every time she comes back from this place, it's like this change just keeps on happening. I'm like, what is going on? And so finally one day she comes home from the Bible study and I'm, if anything, getting worse. And she comes home and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to pick a fight with her. I'm over this. Like, I'm tired of her just being happy all the time. Stupidest thing ever, right? And so I pick a fight with her and she's just normally, me and her would have, it'd been like World War 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But this time she's just looking at me. She's like, babe, I don't want to fight with you. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, yeah, I can't do this. I'm like, dude, you're always happy. You've been going to this place for the better part of a year. I'm like, I'm miserable. If anything, I'm more angry than when I started going to church. You know, nothing's changed in a positive direction in my life. I'm done. Like, I'm done with this. And she looks at me like,
I was like, oh, he's going to divorce me. Like, what?
yeah. And she looks at me like, what? Like, what do you mean you're done? And I'm like, I'm done being pissed off and angry and just upset all the time for no reason, you know? Like, I want what you have. Like, I want to be happy like that, you know? Like, I'm tired of this. And so I went back and I really, instead of just, you know, being closed off and closed-minded towards everything, I really just opened up my heart and listened with better intentions. And it changed my life. You know, I had an amazing experience with God, you know, that time I went back. And, you know, my pastor, thankfully, you know, the church was still young. So he really took me underneath his wing and poured into me, you know, really how to be like an honorable man, you know, how to be a husband, how to be a dad. You know, he set such an amazing example, you know, Pastor Mano from Harvest Time Church, him and his wife, you know, same thing. His wife has poured so much wisdom and love into Antoinette. And it's, you know, and don't get me wrong, our marriage has had its hiccups since, but with them, like, we've really been able to navigate like those storms, like by really going back to God's word on how to navigate those storms. And, you know, it's been how many years now
What?
that we've been with them?
14.
Wow. Yeah. It's so
14.
14 for her and then 13 for me. And because there was that year where I didn't go with her. And yeah, it's changed our lives. It's our lives are so much better, you know, even though we may not be where we want to be yet, like financially and success wise, but definitely in our walk, man, like we see things and situations and problems in such a different, you know, sight now, to where we can easily recognize like, oh no, this is 100% an attack from the enemy. Or this is, oh, you know, I'm just being lazy. I just need to get my lazy butt up and get the work done. You know, but from there, even from a business standpoint, so at the time we're going then, this was early, I'm working at Wells Fargo. You know, I'm holding a really good position in Hollywood Hills. And at the time, well, most of our marriage, except for the beginning, Antoinette's been a stay-at-home mom. Early when our first son was born, she tried to go back to work. And the first place we left him at ended up hitting him. And
He had literally had a fist mark on his face, and he was only like
he was an infant.
a year,
Yeah.
maybe.
Not even a toddler.
That's not good.
No. And so after that, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't care what I got to do. Like, I don't trust anyone with our son. So she's been a stay-at-home mom. And so I've held it down. You know, I worked at Kaiser, I worked at Wells Fargo, and for long periods of time. And so right when I got saved, like that first year, I'm driving home from Hollywood Hills and I'm happy. I'm making good money. You know, we have our oldest and our daughter is now born. And I'm like, oh, this is great.
He was like 3.
Yeah. And I'm driving past West Covina Mall and I hear someone tell me, you need to quit your job. And I turn off my radio and I'm like, no, there's no way. Like, I'm making 6 figures right now. I'm like, dude, like we're in good shape. There's no way. So I turn my radio back on. You need to quit your job. And I'm like, okay. I know.
Probably
God,
wouldn't matter what station you put
Yeah.
it on too, right?
I turn off my radio and I'm like, you know what, God, I know this is you. Why? Why in your green earth would you want me to quit my job? I'm like, I thought we're supposed to be successful. I'm trying to reason now, right? I'm like, I thought we're supposed to be blessed to be a blessing to others, you know, trying to turn God's word around on him. And he's like, I need you to quit your job and I want you to do this like boot camp, like workout in the park for people. And I'm like, what?
Random.
I'm like, so you want me to leave my stable income to do this? I'm like, God, I haven't trained people in years. I'm like, why would I even go back to that? And so I was like, you know what? all right, how about this? I will do that on the side, but I'm going to keep my stability. That's like, okay. A few weeks later, a big scandal hits Wells Fargo and my entire division gets completely wiped out.
Now, did you feel responsible for that in some ways? I'm just curious. Like you literally just took a whole department out.
Well, I didn't then. I probably do now. I'm like, man, I never thought about it that way. Well, if you're part of that, I'm sorry. I don't think, I'm so sorry. But yeah, so I'm like, you know what? All right, God, I guess I'm gonna go full force with this thing. And so we're living in Glendora at the time, and I started at a park off of Gladstone, and there was like maybe 3 or 4 people, like nothing
It
crazy.
started as a kids camp.
Yeah.
Because our oldest son was getting bullied. So it was more like an anti-bullying campaign that we were starting to try to give kids confidence back and to show them who they were and to build them up. And then after the first workout, the kids went to the park to play and the parents ended up working out.
Yeah, should we work out? And I'm like, oh, okay.
And so it turned into an adult group workout.
Wow. And so as time grew, and this was like maybe like right before summer started. And so during the hot months, like it was great. People were sweating, word started getting out. And then the winter hit. And I still remember I walk out one morning and I step on the grass and it just crunches beneath my feet. I'm like, oh man, it's too cold. Like there's no way we can do this. So granted, at this time, remember, I have been working at Wells Fargo and I think I'm making like $400 a month compared to like my 6-figure salary. And at the time, her mom was living with us.
My mom she had just got diagnosed with cancer that year, actually right before we started the boot camp.
Yeah.
She came to live with us. My brother and his ex-wife and her baby were living with us. And then we had our 2 kids. And he was the only one working.
Yeah.
Making $400.
Like 100%.
But we always had food.
Yeah.
We always paid rent. All of our bills are paid. It didn't make sense. And we would look at each other like, how is this happening? We know what's coming in. But how every time it's time to pay, it's there.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense.
And so as the months got cold, and I'm like, there's no way we can rent it. No one's going to want to come. So I start looking around and we find a spot. Well,
One of our clients.
Yeah, one of our clients said, hey, there's this martial arts studio that's subleasing some time. I think they'd be interested in partnering with you. I'm like, okay. So somehow, some way, when we went into this martial arts studio, God, this place, I won't even go into the details, but it was disgusting. Like it was so bad looking back at it. Like it smelled like feet.
I had to do a deep cleaning, like take everything out, scrub everything with bleach.
It was such an old building, and
Roaches.
It was roaches, and the walls were like this blood red. So when it rained, it literally looked like blood was about to like. It looked like
We painted it red. That back wall.
Did we?
Yes.
It was horrible. It was just
Made it
horrible.
look really bad
It looked
when
like
it
a horror
rained.
movie. But the crazy thing is, when we first went there, we had like 50 people like in every single class. Like it just exploded. And so we were running that and everything's going great. And then the owner of the martial arts studio ended up trying to shake me down. He moved to out of state. He tried to shake me down for a whole bunch of money, saying that I'm splitting now with the martial arts studio that was still there and with us. And he tries to make me take over the entire financial responsibility.
While letting them stay there for free.
Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. So then we're looking for another place. We find one up the street in Azusa. And it is now, I think, triple of what we were paying at the martial arts studio. So then now we're left with a choice. We could either give up the boot camp completely and I can try to figure out a way to go back to work, or we could get this new place that's better, cleaner, in a better part.
Kind of.
But we wouldn't be able to afford our home anymore or our car payments or really anything. So either we go homeless or I go back to work. And so I had this discussion with Antoinette and I'm like, babe, these are the options.
And I was pregnant at the time with
She
our
just
last
found
son.
out that she was pregnant. And I'm like, what do we do? And at this time now, like we're really heavy in our church and now we're really listening to God. And she's like, what does God say? And I'm like, babe, he's the one who told me to run this. And I'm like, and I'm going to run it. I'm like, but what do we do as far as the house and everything? And this is like my biggest flex when it comes to the support of my wife, is she told me.
Don't make me cry.
She told me, I will go with you anywhere. She's like, I will live with you in a cardboard box if we have to. And I'm like, oh, man, I really wish she would have said something else. And so we did it. We ended up leasing that place. We lost the house. We lost the cars. We lost everything. And there was a storage room in the back of the gym that was just big enough for our beds. We moved everything into there.
No shower.
No shower. Just a toilet and a sink. Because it was like it wasn't even meant to live in. It was like a retail pad. And it is now us, our 2 kids, and she's pregnant with our youngest.
And we had to get rid of Ollie, our
We had to
dog.
get rid of our dog. We lost everything, literally everything, to keep this, this not even dream, but this
And my
this
grandma.
assignment alive, right?
Yeah.
And so we're doing this for a year. We're living back there. We're literally microwaving water just to like sponge bath our kids in a bucket because there was no hot water. And
One of our friends.
one of our friends comes and he's like, I heard what's happening. And I still remember he built us this skeleton. You know how when you build a brand new home, it's just
The wood.
what is it called? Yes, the frames. So imagine a bathroom that's like 4x4 with just the frames and the outline of a shower and a little like a 10-gallon water heater, just enough for 90 seconds of hot water.
Well, it didn't start out that way. We didn't get the water heater until months later.
So he tapped into the water and it was ice cold forever. And the kids loved it.
I didn't. I was pregnant in the winter. It was freezing.
The kids, man, they never once complained. I mean, ever. There was never a dull moment with the kids. And we made the best of it, that we could. And so he found out about it and somehow we were able to get a water heater in there. And I still remember we got all of them a hot shower for the first time in several months. And they had all gone to bed and I waited for it to refill and heat up. And I remember,
You only have 5 minutes.
yeah, I get into the shower and when the hot water hit my head, I started crying. But it wasn't because of the situation. I remember crying, my God, like, thank you. I was so grateful. And I'm looking around the shower and I'm crying and I'm just smiling. I'm like, man, like, God, this is so amazing. Like, thank you so much for an amazing friend like Andy to do this for us. So this whole time, Lifted, our gym, our boot camp was called Lifted Boot Camp. And it was a faith-based gym. Like, we're praying for people. Like,
Only Christian music was played, whether, just different genres.
Miles Minnick, shout out to Miles Minnick, Miles, Lecrae, Andy Minia, like they were like the foundation of the music that we would play in this place. And the gym is growing and we're seeing miracles. Like I've never been the person to pray for people. It's always been Antoinette. And so it kind of forced me out of my area of comfortableness. And as we're praying for people, like I still remember we had a client who we prayed for. She was supposed to have surgery on a tumor, like the
that was
size
growing
of
on
my
her
fist.
On the back of her neck, it was pushing up against her spine. So she was losing like feeling. So they told her she's at risk to like be paralyzed. So it had to be taken out. She goes, I'm going, can you guys pray for me before we go? And it was me, my husband, and my brother, Rudy at the time. And we all laid hands. And I just remember the fear in his eyes, like, oh my God, what do I say?
Yeah.
And we just all prayed that the Lord would heal her. And it was like 2 days. We were kind of hitting her up like, hey, how are you doing? And then she walks in the door and we're like, what are you doing here? And she goes, and she just starts bawling. She goes, you're never going to guess. She said, I went in and they have to do an ultrasound before to know exactly where to put the incision. And she goes, it's gone, completely gone. And she said, the doctors are like, we don't understand. We just saw it. Like these things don't just disappear. And she goes, oh, that was God.
And just to give you a little bit of context, how she said like I was terrified. This is literally me during the prayer. I'm like, God, I don't even know what to say. But I can't heal people.
You can.
I know you can. So I guess if this is something that you do, do your thing, God, because Dorothy's amazing. She's such a beautiful person. And I know this would be huge to her if you could do this. Amen. That was my thing. I had no idea how that would even work. And when she came in on Monday and showed us the back of her neck, I'm like, how? She's like, you guys prayed for me. I'm like, okay. It was so like crazy, like foreign to me, like, wow, like it's legit. Like this
Me and my
whole,
brother were jumping up and down because we knew exactly
yeah,
what it was.
it was crazy. So things like that are happening. And at the time, like, so our gym and our church that we'd still been a part of is growing now because people are coming into our gym and they're asking us like, dude, like you guys are like so loving. Like, do you guys go to church? Actually, yeah, we go to church right here in Covina. It's called Harvest Time. And so people through our gym started going into our church. And we brought a lot of the people who are there now, a lot of the leaders, people who are still in our church today came from our gym. And so it was stories like that, that really built the foundation of who we are and what we are today. So the gym's growing and it finally got to the point I'm like, babe, like Lifted's doing well enough. I think we can get our own apartment and be able to afford our own place. So we're looking around, let's look back in Covina because at this time Azusa is just not a really great place to be at. And we go to Covina, we're looking around, we find an apartment, and a couple blocks down, we end up leasing a unit in a retail pad.
Yeah, it was like 2 blocks away from where the business was.
And we ran that for years. And so, funny enough, because we're on a podcast, towards the end, God is now before, like when podcasts really started like coming up, God really puts it on me. He's like, Chris, I need you to start a podcast. And I'm like, why? And at this time, COVID had already come and gone, which COVID in itself was like probably our most successful time as a gym, believe it or not.
Not at first.
Not at first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had gotten COVID really bad and I almost died in the hospital. I was there for 6 days and I'll touch on that briefly before we get into how we ended up in where we are now. So I got COVID and I was there for 6 days. 3 days into it, they tell me, hey, your oxygen levels aren't improving. If we don't intubate you, you're going to die. And I'm like, no, because everyone I know who got intubated dies. So I'm not doing that. And they asked my wife. She tells them the same thing. They're like, you're not doing that to my husband. So 3 days into it, the next day they come to me and tell me, hey, there's an experimental drug that's showing some promise out in Europe and other places. Would you be in it? I'm like, yes. And they make me sign a Bible thick pack of waivers and, all kinds of stuff. And I'm literally like on oxygen, like
So bad.
it was bad. And so
I would
don't
go
care.
visit him through the window, because they wouldn't let me in. And I would just and I'd never seen him like that.
It was on the bottom floor, thank God. And her and my friend Sam from church, our pastor's son, would come and see me almost every single day. And I'd be on one side of the window and they'd be on the other. I'd be on my phone talking to them. And it was heartbreaking. So they give me the drug and my oxygen level starts to improve. And so finally on day 6, they let me go. It got to the point where I could be sent home. But it was such a struggle. At this time, COVID had shut all the gyms down. And I'm still struggling to breathe and I'm getting restless at home. And I'm like, dude, like, babe, take me to Lifted. She's like, babe, I'm like, just take me to Lifted. I got to work out. I got to do something. So I started just strength training and I was so weak and just lifting 5-pound dumbbells. And over weeks, I noticed that I could breathe easier again. And I'm like, oh crap, like people need this. They need to work out. So I was like, you know what? I don't care. Let's open it back up. We'll do the whole 6 feet and all this other garbage that we had to do. And so finally we got in trouble for being indoors. I'm like, you know what? Forget it. Let's move everything outside. So every single day we move everything outside and people driving by would see it. They're like, oh man, there's an open gym. And it got to the point where we're running like 75, 80 people boot camps in the parking lot of where our unit was. And the cops would come by. They're like, man, like, thank you so much for doing this. This is what our community needs. If you guys need anything, we're here to support you. And so that comes and goes and we're doing great. But then of course, after all the restrictions have been lifted, now it starts to take a dip. And financially, we're starting to struggle. And so
we were also under a slumlord.
Yeah. Who ends up hitting us with like back rent for, the better part of a year. So we ended up paying like all the money we had saved up to buy a house. We had to pay this guy off. And then of course the rent relief thing didn't come through in time. So the apartment's asking us for a big chunk of change.
Which they weren't.
We had to give them so all of our savings is gone. So now we're really struggling. We're barely keeping afloat. And God's like, oh, I want you to start a podcast. And I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I'm like, and of course my argument with God is like, how is that? I'm like, God, I have like 200 people following me on social media. How the heck?
They're all from church.
Yeah, they're all from church. I'm like, how am I supposed to make money? Like, I can't. logic, right? I'm like, it's not gonna help me. So I'm fighting it. I'm like, you know what? Fine. God, I have a camera, but I'm like, I don't have lights. So this dude comes to visit to our church.
From another church
In San Bernardino. And me and him hit it off. We're talking about cameras and lights. He's into video production. He was like, hey, I'm like, this is the day after I'm having this argument with God. I'm like, God, I don't have lights. How am I supposed to do a podcast? These lights in my gym are ugly. I'm not going to do that. And so the guy tells me, he's like, hey, would you happen to need lights for anything? And I'm like, honestly, bro, I'm kind of strapped for cash. He's like, no. They've been sitting in my trunk for like months. They're collecting dust. You can have them. And I'm like, oh, you're funny. So he gives me the lights. I'm like, you know what, God? I don't have a set. How am I supposed to do a podcast without a set in my gym? So then we're doing research, and she ends up finding these wood panels from Home Depot for like cents. We get 2 panels. She hangs them up. She's like, what else? And I'm like, you know what, God? I don't have furniture. I'm not going to sit on the floor for a podcast, right? Now I'm pushing my luck. And so we're on OfferUp, and she sends me this listing for a guy out in Irvine. She's like, babe, he's giving these away. And I'm like, oh, those look nice. That kind of goes with the color of what you said would look good. So we go and we visit him, and they're sitting on his driveway. And he's like, yeah, you guys, like, I want to bless someone with them. We've never used them. He's like, they've been in a part of our house that never gets sat in. And my wife wants new ones, so we're going to get rid of them. And so he gave us those 2 and another really beautiful armchair.
And a table.
So we're driving back, and I'm looking through, and I'm like, where did he say? I thought it was Pottery Barn. And I'm looking, and it's not there. I'm like, what's another? I'm like, oh, Crate and Barrel. And I'm going through the Crate and Barrel website, and sure enough, I find them. Each chair was $2,400.
For free.
For free. And I'm like, you know what, God? I don't have mics. All the best podcasts have amazing mics.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I'm like, they have good mics. I'm like, God, I don't have, what am I going to do? So we end up going to Guitar Center. I'm like, let me just see what they run. And a good mic is easily at least $150. I know these will run between $150 to $200. And with the idea and vision of the podcast that I would want to run, I would need at least 4. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I can't afford that. So as I'm walking out, I see these mics, and it's sitting on the top. It said clearance, and it was like for $50. And I asked the guy, I'm like, hey, is there anything wrong with this? He says, no. He's like, the brand is discontinuing them, so we don't need them anymore. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up buying the one I'm like, are there any other ones like this available anywhere else? He was like, Pasadena has like 4 of them in stock, but they're all brand new. I don't know if they'll be the same price, because normally they're $250. And so he rings up the mic that was on clearance, and it rang up for $30.
Even less than what it was on here for.
And I'm like, I'll take it. We go to Pasadena, and I'm like, hey, I just bought this mic. I need 3 more. Can you tell me if you have them in stock? He's like, yeah. Takes a brand new from the case, rings it, and it rings up for $15. And I'm like,
can't make this stuff up.
Hack the system or what?
No, it's.
And so
We looked like this. We're like.
And he was like, wait, where did you get yours at? I'm like, at Guitar Center in Glendora. He was like, wait, was this like a used open box one? I'm like, no, it just said clearance. He was like, well, brand new ones are half of what you paid for a used one. So take as many as you want. So sure enough, we bought all of them. Less of what I would have paid for one. So I'm like, well, dang, now what do I do? So we started shooting a few episodes, and we have a few things come off. And a friend of ours, her name's Ashley. She owned a bridal shop in Brea. She was like, hey, where do you shoot your podcast at? Because my pastor's looking to rent a place out for studio time. And I'm like, oh, okay. So her and her pastor ended up renting out the studio in the back of our gym that we had built into a podcast set.
And then our other friend.
Yeah, another friend of ours. She was like, hey, I want to rent some studio time. And I'm like,
she goes, but is there space to have like my own set there? So we actually helped her build out her set on the other side of it's literally split right down the middle.
So now I'm starting to learn more about video production and lighting and mics and the whole 9 yards, right?
Audio.
And now we're supplementing income with a podcast that God told me to start, because I thought that I'm like, dude, there's no way I can make money off of this. It's crazy. And so now I had been following a popular bodybuilding powerlifter influencer for some time since COVID. And this is about 2-3 years ago now. And a bodybuilding coach from San Dimas, who is now in Claremont, separately. And then I see that they are collabing together and they're about to build a gym in the city of Claremont, which at the time from Covina was like 10 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, like I would love to just meet these two, because Ryan Benson, the coach, had coached my brother like 10 years prior to his first physique show, and he killed it. And Larry, I had been following him because he was just a crazy strong dude.
We would watch him during COVID.
Yeah, like our
whole
kids were like,
family.
oh my God, like this guy's insane. So I ended up hitting them. I'm like, hey, like I'm not looking for a job, but I'm a huge fan of what you guys do. Like I'm a big supporter. I would love to just bless you guys with like some photos and a video of your gym. You know, I would love to.
It was empty. Their website was empty.
Yeah.
And they were about to open that week. That weekend was going to be their grand opening of the gym. So
And so Ryan hits me back up and he's like, dude, like, thank you. That's amazing. Here's Larry's number. Meet him and he'll organize the whole thing. And I'm like, did he just give me Larry's phone number? Larry Wheels' phone
he
number?
almost had a heart attack. It was hilarious.
And I'm like, babe, what do I do? She's like, call him. And I'm like, I call it. And he was like, yeah, you know, I can't mimic Larry's voice. He was like, yeah, you know, come on in. And yeah, we'll work the whole thing out. And so I go with my son and I'm like, Aiden, when you see Larry, don't freak out.
Don't fanboy
Don't
out.
fanboy out over him. And he's like, okay. So Larry walks in. I'm like, oh my God, Aiden's just Larry. Oh my God, calm
Fanboy
down.
out.
I'm freaking out because Larry's larger than life. And so I'm putting together, you know, all my equipment and my lighting and everything. And Larry asked me, he's like, hey, can you shoot fitness videos? And I'm like YouTube stuff, like your content? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, I've been doing this for our own gym for years. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, what about a podcast? And I smile and I'm like, and now the whole story about the podcast is replaying in my head. I'm like, I can definitely shoot a podcast. He's like, we'll talk. The grand opening is tomorrow. But he's like, but I'm going to hit you up so you can shoot some stuff for me. And so now it's been 2 years and things have...
No, I got pulled into this.
Oh, so the grand opening, she had no part in the video production side of things.
At all. Well, I was just setting up the audio.
Yeah.
Like that's all I was doing as far as that.
So to sneak her in, I'm sorry, Ryan, to sneak her into the One Gen grand opening, because there was like 10,000 people there. I'm like, babe, I'm going to give you a camera.
You're my photographer.
You're my
And
photographer.
I was like, what? I don't even know how to use this thing. And he's all set everything up for you.
Yeah. And she took great pictures. And so she ends up coming here with me. We had a great time, you know, and we ended up meeting all the people at the gym, which, you know, like it's such an amazing community at One Gym.
We met your son
Yeah.
actually that day. He was amazing.
His hair is what got me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we ended up staying and just loving the environment and the people and the athletes and Ryan and Larry. And, you know, we've been shooting for Larry ever since. You know, we've shot a bunch of content for One Gen. From there, you know, we've been referred to so many other amazing people that we've gotten to work with over the years. You know, and like right now, where Lifter Productions is at, we've learned so much just being in that world that now we're helping, you know, brands really not just post content like hype stuff. You know, our goal is to help people with brands and missions give that value out to the world.
Absolutely.
You know, to really show the world like, hey, like there's people out here who can help you achieve X, Y, and Z and get you to the next level.
We've gone through so much that we understand that we didn't know where to get help from. So we had to figure it out. So the way that we see it is we've already done it. We've already gone through all the mud. Why would we make somebody else go through that? Why can't we just be a blessing to other people so they don't have to go through that and they can just be them? And it's just, it's been working, you know? We love to see people rise up. We love to see people succeed. And that's where we get our joy from, is be like, oh my God, look at them. Like, they look so good. Like, we see Larry do things. We see Ryan, like, hitting his athletes, like, winning, you know, first. And we're just like, oh, that's so amazing. Like, we genuinely love people. And so I think we can say that it shows through our work.
Yeah. And they may not realize it, but we are truly like everyone's biggest fans at One Gen.
Yeah.
You know, whether they're athletes or whether they're just regular people who work out there, like,
Or even the people that work there.
yeah,
We love them.
you know, even from like Roddy, all the front desk people, like
Yeah, no, it's
Yes, it's such a community. The culture that Ryan has built through his athletes, through the people that are allowed to come in, he doesn't take any BS from people. And he's like, if that's what you're about, you cannot be here, because he's built this culture where we're going to lift each other up.
yeah.
And that's the way he sees it. So it's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll drive 25 minutes to get there when
It's
I
worth
have a
it.
gym right down the street.
Yeah.
And it's because of that, a lot
Absolutely.
of what you're saying. So, wow. So you guys have unpacked a lot here already. And what I'm basically hearing is we got at one point someone addicted to meth, someone with other issues, anger problems, all types of things, which you never pick up now, from the conversations that we're having where you're at. I can't even imagine you going in and like taking on guys in the gym and all this kind of thing that you're saying. But I think it's just a testimony to every part of your story has been just about, wait, what? And it's just following.
Mm-hmm. Being obedient.
Yeah, and then God just doing things. So what does that say to people then, because they're hearing this and they're thinking, wow, okay, so you guys do amazing things, but I just don't see myself that way. I just don't see that I've got that in me. It sounds to me like you guys didn't go in thinking that either. It's just
No.
kind of like, almost like, wait a minute, what? And then just seeing God just line. So how does God really use the person that just gets out of the way and just follows and obeys?
I would say it literally starts with your yes, yes and amen. And that's, I mean, speaking for myself, like I now lead worship at my church, so as a worship leader, I was asked to be on the worship team. I never thought that I would be on there. And I just remember watching, my worship leader, Andrea, and I was just so fascinated by her love for Christ. And I was like, God, what does that feel like? And I started out with yes. I remember I was singing in Spanish because I thought it was so cute. My daughter was doing this funny thing with her, and I just recorded it. I didn't think, hey, you're singing. It didn't click for me. All of a sudden I start getting all these messages, one of them being my pastor's wife, Aurora, and she's like, we need you on the worship team. And I was like, what? What do you mean? What are you talking about? And she goes, the video you posted, I love your voice. She's like, I think it's, you're anointed. And I was like, what? No. And she goes, I'm serious. I'm going to tell Andrea about you. And I was so nervous. I was like, what? So it starts with just being obedient. If you're going to hear God, you're going to feel him. He's going to confirm it in his word. I always tell the young adults, if you feel like God is telling you something or leading you somewhere, open up your word and say, Lord, confirm it, because your word doesn't lie. And so if I'm going to say yes, it has to be because you're telling me to say yes. And that's what I did, and I know I started telling him this, and he's like, what do you mean? He had to learn, but he learned differently. And then he audibly now hears from God. I was like, I don't know what that feels like. I don't hear him. Anytime he has me speak to somebody, it's just open your mouth. And when I open my mouth, it just comes out, the words of knowledge and stuff. But it literally is as simple as starting with your yes. And he'll lead you every step of the way after.
People will hear our story and our testimony, even like where we're at right now, and like,
And this
oh
is
my
a
God.
there's so many
Yeah.
other parts that are
There's
way
a lot.
deeper.
There's so much. Like we could have like a 10 episode series on every part, but no, like I try to encourage people and let them know that hey, just because you hear our testimony doesn't mean that we still don't go through things.
Or we're better than them.
Yeah, not at all.
Absolutely not.
And it's because I think it's gotten to the point where we've seen God move so much in our lives and in our past, where it's like I no longer have the convenience of being able to doubt.
Mm-mm.
You know what I
Say
mean?
that
Because
again.
I don't.
Say that again.
We've seen too many times where God has moved, where it's like I can no longer be like, oh my God, I can no longer, I can't use as an excuse like, oh, I don't know if you're gonna come through for me this time, God, because he always has. It may not be in the way I see it, but he always has in one form or another. And it's beautiful because even I attribute to everything that we're doing, especially when it comes to video production, even at our gym, is plugging into a church. And to me, it's crucial because the church is the safest and best place to fail, because there's so much grace, especially if you're in a really supportive, loving community of a church. The reason why I really started developing my craft as a videographer and in production is because I wanted to capture God moments where he was moving in our church. And there were so many of those, but a lot of times I feel like churches focus on the sermon or they focus on the worship team, which is nothing wrong with that. But to me, I want to be able to impact people by capturing a moment where someone was literally on the brink of the end, where they felt like, I'm done. Like, if you don't speak to me, like, I don't want to live anymore. And through my lens is what God showed me. He's like, that's right there. This is the heart. That's my heart for her. That's my heart for him. Right now, they're breaking right now. And so those are the moments I would capture. And so, of course, my pastor always pouring into me, if you do anything, you do it in excellence. I wanted to get better at what I was capturing. So from low light to lighting to shutter speed, the whole thing was all developed because I wanted to do a better job in church. And those skills all relayed out into the world of what we do now. And the funny thing is most, people will see the content that we shoot for people, and majority of the people that we shoot for aren't saved. A lot of them have no active relationship with God, but they'll see us and immediately, like, around us, they'll cuss less. They'll quote unquote behave, but it's not because we're telling them, hey, you shouldn't do that, or hey, that's
Would
not
never touch
godly.
anybody.
But and a lot of people have told us, they're like, for some reason, like, when we're around you guys, like, we don't want to do those things, or it's like we feel like we shouldn't be doing those things. I'm like, why? They're like, I don't know.
Well, it's not us. It's because they see and they feel God around us. That's all it is.
And that's the thing. A lot of people have told us, like, dude, like, how come you never told me anything that I do in my life is wrong? I'm like, that's not my place. I'm like, that's Holy Spirit's job, is to convict you. I'm like, my job for Jesus is to love you. I'm like, because in our experience, that's been our best form of evangelism, is just loving people.
Yeah.
But yeah, like right now, like even up until this week, there's a lot of things on the business side of things that aren't really solidified yet, that of course most people, including myself, would freak out about. But for some reason, this point of time in my life, that obedience to where I know God is calling me to, it's starting to outweigh the worry and the stress. Even right before we shot the podcast, as we're getting ready, she's looking at me. She was like, are you okay? And I'm like, no. She was like, are you stressing? I'm like, yeah. But it's not stressing to the point of like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do? Like, how are we going to make rent? Or, like, financially, what's going to happen? It's like, yeah, like, I know the circumstances are there, but that peace is like starting to outweigh it. And now it's even confusing me up until today, because I don't know why. Because any of our friends, or even Antoinette, will tell you, like, I've always been a very logical person. Like, 1 + 1 will always equal 2 to me. But when God moves things, it's like, no, the 5 fish and the 7 loaves of bread will feed 5,000. My mind has always had a hard time comprehending that. And so like now, like we're in the season, well, at least I'm in the season where it's a lot easier for me to trust God. But like my wife said, and my pastor has always told us, like, your obedience will always be better than sacrifice. And like one day in God's favor is better than 1,000 days of labor.
There you go. Now, it sounds to me like what you're saying is you don't got it, but God's got it.
Yeah.
Right? So
Absolutely.
I don't see it, and I don't know how.
But you don't really need to, because and part of that is based on the story you've already told. So it's based on all the things that didn't make sense, that you, like you mentioned, just do the yes, and all the things that now have happened as a result of not staying at Wells Fargo, not making the easy choices, not doing the logical things, the 1 + 1 = 2. God's the powerful one who basically shows himself in doing it through ways that literally, humanly do not make any sense.
Faith without seeing.
Yeah, right? So now I know that at this point, you've been doing ministry. Everything that you're talking about here is ministry. Okay, so it's ministry everywhere you go. But now I believe that you're even being called even more into what's traditionally known as formal ministry. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Didn't you say something about
Oh, he definitely has a pastoral calling.
pastoral calling and all that?
Absolutely.
So my
He gets so nervous when we talk about
Well, you said I could ask anything.
no,
so I'm
please,
asking.
please. And this is what I love, because I love being thrown off, because it just reminds me. And even questions like that it's further confirmation for me. My wife has been, without hiccup, without breaks, has been on the worship team. God, how long?
I don't know.
It seems like since the beginning, and over the past several years, and my pastor knew what he was doing. He would ask me to speak.
I think it was 2017.
that you got on?
or 26, the very end of 2016.
Yeah, it sounds about right. He would ask me to speak. And,
No, he asked you to read scripture. That's how it started. He's like, Chris, can you come and read this for me? And it was a long, I don't remember exactly, but his wife, Pastora, she actually has the recording of him reading this scripture still to this day. And that's how it started for him. Was my pastor was like, can you read this for me? And then I watched him sit back and just watch him, because our pastor knows. He may not say things at that moment, but he always knows. And he's, always like this with God.
Yeah. Well,
And then it became
over time, yeah. So after him just asking me to read scripture for the services, he asked me to speak.
Oh, that first time.
Man, God, it was a wreck. But over time, he would give me little tips and, here and there, how to structure a sermon, how to,
Not
engage
come in and
people.
bang everybody
Yeah,
in the
you
face.
can't.
Right.
I still remember,
That's so fun, though.
Yes, I know.
well, so
That's how we all start.
Yeah,
Banging somebody in
well,
the face,
the
right?
funny thing was my dream as a teenager was I wanted to be a wrestler.
Okay.
Okay. And so I was constantly memorizing promos. My favorite wrestler was The Rock. And so it always amazed me like how he could captivate people with what he was saying. Not the trash talk, but just the way he said it. The shift in tone, the bringing it up and then bringing it down and pulling them in. And it's so much to where I started going to speech classes. I took all of these, little things to help me become a better promo cutter, trash talker. And so, of course, when I did that, the first time I did it, pastor was like, so it was great. He was like, but you can't Hulk smash for an hour straight. And I was like, oh. He was like, do you watch wrestling? And I was like, oh yeah. He was like, okay, who's your favorite wrestler? I'm like, The Rock. He was like, watch an interview, watch a promo, and you'll see he won't Hulk smash for 15 minutes straight. He'll start slow, he'll build, he'll pull him back down. It's like this. I was like, oh, okay. So then, of course, I started, really honing in on my speaking ability. But of course, God, at least to me, how people say, oh, you'll kill two birds with one stone. To me, God will knock like a whole flock off with like one pebble with me. And as I'm trying to refine my speech, another close pastor from I call him my pastor, my
Uncle pastor.
spiritual uncle,
Yeah.
Pastor Tilo. He was like, Chris, he was like, if you don't know what to say sometimes, the first sermon I ever preached, I literally read the Bible for 30 minutes straight, the way I read it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So of course I started that prompted me to want to read more. So of course, as I'm getting into the word and I'm practicing my speech, now revelation starts to hit me about what I'm reading. And I'm like, wow, I never realized that verse. And
The way he can break things down, like I don't understand in that way. So we really he helps me so much, but not just me, but other people. He has a way of explaining it to where you're like, oh my gosh, I understand what you're saying. And I've always struggled reading the Bible.
So my guess is you're looking at it and it just kind of like opens up.
Mm-hmm.
You
yeah,
just kind of like see things, God reveals certain things with. I know
there's
exactly what
verses
you're
that
talking
I would
about.
have read over before that I would have just read right over.
Oh.
What was that? Yeah, and out of nowhere, like I'll be talking to someone and I'll read them the scripture and I'm like, and I'll stop and it just hits me and I'm like, wow, I'm like, dude, that's so much deeper than what I originally thought. And of course, this whole time as I'm practicing my speech, I'm growing my relationship with God because now I'm starting to understand a deeper contextual meaning to his word. And of course, as I do that, I get excited and I want to share it. And, when people start asking me, I'm like, well, picture this. And I will break it down. I try to break it down in a way that's so easy to understand. So that way, when they read it, they're like, oh, I get it, And so all I have to say is, as the years have progressed and, pastor has asked me to speak more, being in ministry for so long, you see the good of ministry and the ugly side of ministry, the drama side.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the side that really kept me running away from that calling of eventually stepping into a pastoral role. Even like entertaining that thought of one day becoming a pastor. I'm like, oh God, no, I don't want to deal with all that.
But see, that's where I would always tell him. And I said, I'm on stage and I see everybody. You don't think I see people who are talking, people who are on their phones, people who are literally like this? And I was like, you were that for Andrea in the beginning. But I said, I'm not there for them. I'm here to give glory to my King. And so when I'm up there, I'm focusing on God. And I said, when you're there and you're doing what God is asking you to do, picture your audience of one. And that's it. And I was like, don't worry about he will clean up everybody else. And if they're willing, if they're yes, and they're going to be obedient, then he'll do it.
Yeah.
You know?
So it's recent that a lot of people who really don't know me, on deeper personal spiritual level have been bringing that up to me. And
Larry being one.
The one that really tipped it over was we were at a gym equipment expo in San Diego with Larry and Max Pump and a few other people. And we're sitting there eating lunch, and it's Larry, it's me, and it's Antoinette. And I'm taking a bite. No one's saying anything. And Larry takes a bite. He looks at me. And he's like, so when do you plan on becoming a pastor? And I'm like, I look at him like.
I started laughing. I was like, I love you, Larry.
And my literal answer was like, what? And he was like, yeah, well, I figured because you guys are always talking about God and your church and, like all that other stuff. He's like, I think you'd be really good at it, like post a bunch of content. And I'm like, okay. And I go back to eating my food, but then it hits me. I'm like, why would you say that? And he was actually, it wasn't even me. It was my wife, Shayla, who asked me. And I just remembered right now to ask you. And I'm like,
what?
That's weird. So then, but it stuck. And I'm like, man, God, you will literally use anyone to really get that to me. And it got to a point where I'm like, you know what, God? I'm like, okay. And I text my pastor, and this was like, I think 2 weeks ago. I'm like, pastor, I'm like, I know I'm speaking on Thursday. I'm like, but I'm ready. Whatever steps that is, when we have time, I'm ready to see what those next steps are into stepping into a pastoral type of, journey or route. And it was and this is where that weird peace set in, because now it's like the circumstances are there, the stuff that I would normally be freaking out about, but it's almost like ever since I made that decision, none of it really bothers me the way it was. And I'm talking about like, compared to a few weeks ago to 2 weeks ago, it's very different. People will see and hear our story, like I was saying, and be like, oh man, like, so because they're walking with God, everything's great. Like, no. We still got our problems. And I'm like, but there's this peace that's like, God's like, I got you. Like, just there's days where I'm looking at bills and I'm like, my first instinct is to freak out. But then God will start speaking to me and I'll get into my word and something will hit me. And when revelation hits me when I'm reading my Bible, every single time God, I know, wants me to do a video. 90 seconds, nothing crazy. Like, oh my God, like I had such crazy revelation, about this, and I'll post the video. And at first, like when you start posting content, like you said before, it's really discouraging when you look at analytics. And like, oh my God, only 800 people watch this video. But then I look at the size of our church and only 260 people fit into that auditorium. And I started looking at it differently. And I'll get that one comment from that one guy or that one girl who like, I really needed to hear this. And I was like, that's why you had me do it. I'm like, you know what, man?
Always leave the 99 for the one.
I don't care if it reaches 5 or 5 million and there's that one comment. And I still remember I had posted a video where I had thought I was having a heart attack because I was so stressed out. And
he made his body think that he was literally having a heart attack.
I don't go to the hospital ever. Like, something would have to be like cut off for me to be like, oh, I should probably go. And I call Antoinette. I'm at home and I'm like, babe, I think I'm having a heart attack. I need you to take me to the hospital. She's like, oh crap. She scoots me up. She takes me to Glendora, and I'm there, and they take my blood. They run all these tests, and I got my book and my iPad and everything ready to be admitted. And the nurse comes out and she tells me, okay, we're ready for you. And I kiss Antoinette goodbye. She's like, no, we're ready to discharge you. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm dying.
He literally said that.
My heart's about to explode in my chest. She's like, Mr. Saavedra, we ran all the tests. You're healthy. And I'm like, no. Like, you need to admit me. Like, my chest hurts. She's like, we're going to give you something, but before I'm going to ask you a few personal questions. I'm like, okay. Are you stressed? I'm like, of course I'm stressed. What kind of question is that? I'm always stressed. She's like, okay, what are you focusing on right now? I'm like, bills, my gym, blah, 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 all these other things that are going wrong in my life. She was like, I strongly believe in the power of your thoughts. Mr. Saavedra, I know that you're feeling this, but every test we've ran on you says otherwise, which shows me that your thoughts on so much negativity in your life is physically manifesting itself in a physical way that is causing you pain. And I'm looking at her like she's crazy. I'm like, and you're a medical professional and this is what you're telling me? And so I go home and I'm sitting there upset in my car that I'm not dying. And I'm just sitting there and it hits me. I'm like, wait a minute. If I could physically manifest pain by focusing so much on something negative that's worrying me, what would happen if I actually focused on something good?
That part.
Like God's word. And I'm like, huh. So I started getting into my Bible more. And I started, people talk about the power of thought. I'm like, no, it's not, to an extent, yeah. I'm like, but what if I really focus on the truth of like what God says he has for us? I'm like, not just a life of like financial blessing and abundance, but like that overwhelming peace, God's peace, regardless of the circumstance. And it's been a journey, but it's revelation like that, where those videos that I post that mean the most to me, because a guy saw that video where I posted about me having a heart attack, and he's in Texas. And he was like, you know what, man, like I've been so stressed because I've been thinking about starting like really like going full force with like my faith-based gym. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, bro, literally been running one for like several years. He's like, what? And to this day, it's been years. He's killing it. His name is Jason. He runs, I think it's Barbell County Fitness in Texas. He's still thinking he praises God like throughout his gym. God has been his foundation, and he's been expanding and growing. He's absolutely killing it. But it's people like that. Though that's the reason why I post the videos. It's not for clout. It's not to gain a following. I could care less if I had 10 people following, let alone like 24,000 like on TikTok. It doesn't matter, because it's those times where I'm like, when God prompts me to do a video, I'm like, one person needs to hear this, and yeah, it's just, it's crazy. Like just where God has us, that this stage in our life, like I'm really excited, like to see like what's next.
Amen. So what I'm hearing all the way through, because I know there's even things that we didn't get to talk about today, like situations that you got in, places that you guys got to do, and then all of a sudden it ended unexpectedly. And a lot of it, it's like, wait a minute, I thought everything was finally in place, and then it's not. But all of these steps, including from the beginning even to now, sounds to me like you're not going where you're going now without, this ending, this stopping, this doing all these decisions along the way. So a lot of people get confused because they think, oh, I follow God, and then I'm supposed to have no more problems, like you were mentioning. No more challenges, no more financial issues, no more health issues, no more any of these things. No, those things keep coming.
Absolutely.
But it's just God will take you. You don't go through them alone. He doesn't abandon you in them. He goes through them with you.
There's a lesson in everything. Every time that we go through something, it's to prep us for somebody else who's going to be going through it, and to teach them that God is always with you. Through the trials, through the valleys, through the mountaintops, and everywhere in between, he will be there with you. But we have to learn how to change our perspective from, God, why is this happening, to, Lord, like, what are you trying to show me here? Yeah. Do I need to take something here? And then really, like, sometimes I was put in a place of a hospital just to give a word to somebody and to speak life into somebody, but I had to go through something. My pastor said the same thing. He had his appendix, something happened with his appendix, but it was because he had to pray for somebody else in the bed next to him, and he got to go home, and he was stuck in the hospital still. It's
what you just said right there is so telling, because through the years I've had to just like visit people in the hospital. I really, for the longest time, didn't like it. If I ever get anxiety, it's when I see, like you were mentioning, the woman who was about to possibly be paralyzed if God didn't heal her. And I've had good friends that were like in church that helped me so much. And then all of a sudden this big, brawly man that would go and do all these things literally couldn't even feed himself.
Yeah.
Because cancer in the spine and all of these types of things. And if I ever get anxiety at night, it's thinking about what if that would happen to me and I can't move and all that.
Oh, that's
And
the enemy.
yeah,
Man, he loves
and then
that.
God would come along and say something like, well, it's not happening right now, so go to sleep. You know what I mean? But then one time I was having this conversation with God, and I was saying to him, you know me. You know the way I'm made. I can't see myself confined to a bed. I just can't, you know, I pray that I never even end up in the hospital like that. And kind of what I got, not the big audible voice in the corner or bright light, but you know, you just know what God's saying. And what I got was, I'm not going to tell you whether I'm ever going to put you there or not. But along with what you were just saying, he goes, but I want you to understand that if I do, it won't be because I'm punishing you.
Yeah.
It'll be because there's a nurse. There's somebody in the next bed. There's somebody who's going to come in. That's why I'm going to have you in there.
Have you watched The Chosen?
Some of it.
So there was a part, and it just got me. I think it was Little John.
Yeah.
No, yeah, Little John. And he had this ailment, right, in his body. And he goes, God, like, you use us and we go out and we heal people. He goes, and I watch you heal people. He goes, well, why haven't you healed me? He goes, do you think you don't deserve it? And he goes, what did he say? He said, I know that you can continue to do these things even with your ailment. And it was the way that he said it.
Said, what a story it would be that you go and heal people, and even though you still have this. And dude, when we saw that, we just bawled.
We were
dang,
crying
like,
so much.
even with our circumstance, even with what we're going through, even what we've gone through, there's someone where if you can give that encouraging word, regardless of the season you're in, man, what a story that would be. You know, and I'm like, oh, it hit me so hard.
Someone is always waiting on the other side of your obedience.
Yeah.
No matter what it looks like.
Well, so to touch on what you were mentioning, we had celebrated 10 years. Last June was 10 years of us running Lifted Boot Camp. And on the 10th year anniversary, God's like, it's time to close it down. This has been my income for like 10 years. What do you mean? This has been
and
like
we both were feeling.
Yeah. I'm like, this has been like my provision, and immediate conviction. It's like, your gym has been your provision? And I'm like, oh God, no. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. Yeah. And I'm like, but why though? Like we've brought so many people to you from Lifted. And now God's like, because I can't bring you to the next stage of your life if you continue to hold on to it. It's done what it needed to do. It's time to let it go. I'm like, okay, no more hesitation. I'm like, okay. She didn't even know I was going to do the video. I shot a selfie video right in front of one gen. And I'm like, hey, you guys, I just want to say thank you guys so much. We love you guys, but it's time for us to shut doors. We're moving on to the next stage of our life. We love you. We'll always be here for you guys. It was done. 3 days later, we get called for a contract that completely changed our lives. And the contract was for 6 months, and it was shooting for a very high profile celebrity. It was great. It was absolutely amazing. And so we're thinking that come February, that the contract's going to be extended and it's going to turn into this very long-term type of thing. It didn't. And now it's like we finally moved out from like the horrible area that we're in to this area. And I'm like, when that call came and I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? You know, so now I'm freaking out. And this was in February. It's now March, April, now May. It's 3 months later. And even looking back, I'm like, what would have one more day of freaking out would have done? Somehow every single month, God's come through. Every single month. And it's scary. It can be scary at certain times, but it's like the things that we've seen, I could have very easily been like, no, like I'm going to figure out a way. I'll let my son take over Lifted so we can still have the income. But it's like what we've been able to do since we shut the gym down. I never thought we'd be able to travel to the places we've seen, that we've been able to speak to the people that we've been in the same rooms with, you know, who've encouraged us. Your son alone has spoken so many words. Like, like I've been able to scale just because of like 5 minutes of conversation I've spent with him.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's like, man, God, like you really do have a plan. You know, like now it's where if God were to ever ask me to do something, I'm like, yeah, let's run it. You know, like without hesitation, because like I said before, like God's track record is flawless with me. It's never in the time frame that I think of it. To me, it's like, oh crap, God, like we're 6 days late in rent. There's like a 20% penalty. Like, what's gonna go on? Something comes through. Someone will call that we have no connection with, like, hey, I got referred to you by so-and-so. We literally just shot a wedding from a woman who got us referred through her Ring app on her doorbell.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was a community.
It's amazing where you get connected from, isn't it?
Yeah. She lived in Covina, and she was like, hey, I'm looking for a videographer and photographer for my wedding. Someone who wasn't even a client of ours, who hadn't been a client of ours at the gym for years, call Chris and Antoinette. They're such an amazing, godly couple. You'll love them. And I'm like, who was it? She was like, I have no idea.
We still don't know who it is.
Yeah, we still have no idea who.
But the crazy thing is that where the wedding reception was actually where we used to have church. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like I got super emotional walking in there. Like, oh, this is where I started. And this is where I first stepped on stage.
This is where I first
This is
spoke.
where I fought for my marriage. This is where I fought for my family. Like it just brought back everything.
It's crazy though, because I noticed that right before God brings us to the next big part of our life, he will always show us a glimpse of where we came from. Right before, I still remember right when that contract landed in August of last year, we had to drive up Azusa Avenue for some reason. And we passed the martial arts studio. We passed the part where we were living inside of. And I'm like, man, God, like, it was just a reminder of like, this is how far I've brought you. Like, you trust me now.
Now, how far am I going to take you?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It's been amazing.
Now, this has been an amazing conversation, by the way. We could go for 2-3 hours.
Oh,
I don't know if people would watch, but it's been great. But let's just wrap in this type of direction, because there's one other question that's coming up in my mind that you talked about, just moving forward without hesitation. I know that in anything we get a lot about, especially in the spiritual lane, well, I need to pray about that. And I don't think we want to minimize that. But at the same time, you mentioned something about, the opportunity came and just boom. I know a lot of people, I've seen a pattern where it's almost like in the praying about it, it's almost like we're praying for God to come around to our way of thinking. All the doubts that we have, all the reasons why not. Okay, if I pray about this long enough, you'll show me that I'm right. There are times in my life that I've found where people almost look at me and I'm like, okay, let's do it. And they'll, well, don't you want to pray on that? I go, I don't need to.
Yeah.
Because I just know. And it's not because I'm smart. It's just because you've seen everything that God's already doing.
Right.
And it's just, it lines up and it makes sense and it doesn't contradict this word. And it's like, so why would I shut it down? Until if he wants to shut the door, he'll shut it. Right. So do you guys get that too? Where it's just kind of like, it's not like you don't want it to just be reckless, but at the same time, it's like, I don't need time.
I feel like we get to a point and there's people who they hide behind that phrase. Let me pray on that. Just like you said, they're going to use it as an excuse because they want God to do what they say. Right. And that's not how it goes, right? Like there's actual things that you should be praying about. Like, God, where are you leading me? But I feel like we kind of come to a point, and we still do ask God, like, is this where you're leading us? And he'll usually answer us right away. But we are so founded in the word and we have so much wisdom already. We know when God speaks. We know his voice. Now, I feel like there's so many people who are new in their walk. They should be praying about everything because they still hear themselves and they still want to do what they want to do. And I will always say, you need to pray and ask God because I'm trying to teach them to trust God. We know to trust God. I've said yes. Like, he gets my yes every time. I don't question it. So that was like, now he gets to learn. My best friend and her husband, he's like, oh, like you and Cindy always just, you say yes to God. And I was like, but I know who he is. Why would I not? I'm prolonging something. So I feel like you should, but you get to a point to where you have wisdom and you know God's voice. You don't have to. You can say, oh, absolutely, we can take this, And so would you say the same?
About praying?
No, about like, do you think that that's a...
Well, it's not that you're not praying, because we're praying without ceasing and we're always listening. Like you mentioned to me off camera, you mentioned to me about an opportunity that came to you guys. Yeah, and the opportunity really made financial sense. you know, it was long-term, it was secure and all that. And yet it's not that you were just praying about it, but there was something that God was just saying, no,
So
you know, right?
Well, he didn't really pray about that.
So the thing was, I was in prayer, but it wasn't about that particular opportunity. You know, I'm now in a place in my life where I kind of started feeling bad, like only going to God when I needed something. And so in this particular case, I'm asking God, like, God, like, I'm freaking out again. Like, what's going to happen? Like, we don't have this kind of income coming in anymore, you know, to afford where we live and everything else. And our kids have already, you know, established their lives at school. Like, what are we going to do? And so now, so a little bit of pre-context, all of the major deals and opportunities that God has blessed us with, he has sent. I have never marketed. I've never asked. I've never gone out and DMs and emails. That's not me. Because for some reason, like, God has always placed us in front of the people.
Right.
Even when I wanted to shoot for Larry and Ryan, it wasn't really with the intention of getting a job. I truly just wanted to help them because I thought,
was a blessing.
yeah, to me, like, they're just amazing, such amazing guys. And so in this opportunity, it was a response from a text message that I had sent out. Because of course, when I started freaking out about finances, I hit up everyone that I could think of. And so it got back to me and they're like, yeah, you know, this is the opportunity. We're going to pay you X amount. Hey, we can even bring your wife on. We'll pay her. And so total, I'm like, dude, like, this is life-changing money. Like, we'd be good. You know, they're like, yeah, you know, we can even bring on your son and so on and so forth. I'm like, oh, family affair, you know, cool. Yeah, you know, then we have plans for a place out here, you know, and like, you guys could run in and so on and so forth. And I'm like, oh man, like, this is your dream come true. But from the very first moment, there was just this gut-wrenching
Holy
feeling
Spirit.
where it's like, don't do this. And so of course, as the contract started to move forward, I noticed, and of course I didn't share it with Antoinette because I knew she would immediately shut it down, that the content that we'd be shooting was not, God would have not
It's not something that we should have been shooting.
Yeah,
Because
we
it goes
have no
against,
business.
a lot of stuff goes against what?
it's very
We believe.
anti-biblical and it's very self-absorbed, it's very prideful type of environment. And I'm looking at it, and now I'm looking at the details of the stuff that we'd be shooting on an up and coming project with that same company. And I'm like, oh man, like, this is literally like witchcraft stuff. I'm like, I don't know. And by this time they had already hired both of us and we're running full force with it.
Again, yeah.
And I'm like, but same thing, there was never peace about this. And I brought it up to my pastor and he was like, well, you know, pray about it. And so sure enough, it starts getting worse. And now we're stressed out. We're having breakdowns. And it's not necessarily because of the work, but it's because there's this friction that is just not, I believe 100% in pushing through obstacles, in kicking the enemy in the face and like taking things by force. Yes. But I also know, and in my experience, I know friction when there's things that I should not be doing and I'm trying to force it. And this was that 100%. And so finally, when it got to the breaking point, and I'm like, you know what, we can't do it no more. I submitted the message to the company. They're like, well, what if we paid you more? And of course, I'm like, oh man, okay, well, maybe this is from you, God. Maybe you're trying to keep me, you know, to do this. It got 100 times worse. And that nausea just wouldn't cease. And I'm like, what is this, God? Like, what do you want me to do? This is from you because it's going to financially bless me, right? It wasn't.
All the kingdoms of the world.
Yeah. Yes.
Literally.
100%.
Absolutely.
They offered to help us move. They're like, dude, we could get you a car. We could do all these things that you're asking us for. Right. And I'm like, oh, man. So finally I bring up my pastor. Yeah, you know, they worked with my schedule. I don't have to commute. They're going to give me more money. But pastor, he was like, something doesn't feel right, doesn't it? And I'm like, why? And he was like, you know what, Chris?
You really need to pray.
I don't know what it is. He's like, but you really need to like pray about this. And it didn't get any better. So finally, when we had enough, I'm like, you know what? This just isn't working out.
We prayed
Yeah.
right before, and then there was just this piece of letting it go, which that was the first time we're like, so sometimes prayer is absolutely necessary.
So I cut the contract. I'm like, you know what? Unfortunately, this just isn't going to work out. And we cut ties and this peace came over. So at that point, I started staying up late, reading my Bible in our kitchen. You know, I would clean and sit down and read my Bible. And I'm talking to God. I'm like, you know, God, what was it? And people will tell me like, dude, that's crazy. You audibly hear from God. I'm like, nah, bro, don't get it twisted. You must think that, like you said, like a light shines on me and praise. I'm like, no. 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10 is God being like, I didn't do that.
Correction.
That ain't me. And so sure enough, I'm sitting in my kitchen and I'm like, God, what happened? He was like, I didn't send him to you. You did that out of your own capacity. That wasn't for me. He's like, you know how I operate. I'm like, but, oh. And I'm looking at all the opportunities that he's blessed me with, right? A week prior to me cutting that tie, we meet someone at an event at the Coliseum in LA. And I don't know this woman. She doesn't know who I am. And she starts talking to me and she's like, you know what, Chris? I have no idea what she does. She's like, you know, I've turned down production gigs where I was going to make 20, 30% on top of a $10 million contract. And I'm like, who are you? And she's like, oh, I'm friends with so-and-so. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And she was like, yeah, you know, like there's good ideas and then there's God ideas.
That's right.
But just because there's a lot of money attached to it does not mean it's always a God idea. And I was like, oh man. And this is before I ended up cutting the contract. And I'm like, dang, God, are you trying to tell me something? And he was like, yeah, stupid, I am trying to tell you something. Come on, man. I've been sending a person you don't even know to tell you this. And what was the original? Sorry, I forget why.
About the prayer. Like we touched
Oh,
it. Yeah.
so going back to prayer, right? And 100%, like, yes, we should pray, but no, there are times where we just know. We have that discernment now. We know how he's operated in our lives. Granted, it might be different for whoever's watching or listening. It's probably different in yours and even in my wife's. But there's a certain way that God does things individually in our own lives. And he does those things for a reason. And to me, now I'm realizing that he does those for a reason so you can recognize when it's not from him. Yeah. You know, like just like this whole situation, like he's never ran that way in my life before. He's never operated. He's never blessed me in that capacity before. It's always been because he's sent someone to me. So that way I would know that it was him and that it wasn't from my hand. Because the Bible tells me that he'll bless the work of my hands, right? So of course I'll do what I can do on a daily, but I know at the end of the day, like he's going to open up the opportunities for me that I know he wants me to take, because there's people in those arenas that he knows that me and my wife have to speak to. And I know for a fact that God will never send me anywhere that is going to separate me from my wife. And so, yeah, all these things are just things that, you know, as your walk with God, you know, progresses, that you just start to see and know and discern. And it's, even with us, like me more so, it's something that I'm continuing to learn and have more faith and confidence in God that through everything that we talked about, I know he has my back. You know, that I'm not the provider of my family. I'm the steward of the resources that God has blessed me with to provide for my family.
So it's not that we don't, just to clarify so that people understand what we're saying. It's not that we're saying you don't pray about things.
Right.
It's just that it's a cumulative effect of the fact that you have been praying about things. So then when it comes,
You know.
yeah, and that's another part, because I know I've experienced this, and maybe you guys have as well, where there's been some things that really then do happen that are really awesome, great, tremendous blessings. And at first, I know for me on one of them, I felt, for some reason, felt kind of guilty. You know, it's like I don't deserve this, you know, and you know, I look at other people that are also working hard and doing things and all that. And then I wouldn't want to say anything because I felt like guilty, you know? And then one day somebody said something to me, and then God like revealed it to me too. And he's like, I don't understand. He goes, why do you feel guilty about this? You've prayed about these things for years, and I've provided it.
Absolutely.
This is something that I provided as an answer to that prayer. So why are you feeling guilty about it?
Yeah.
A friend would always tell us, favor from God is not fair. You know, and sometimes there are people, that doesn't mean that you're praying harder than them, but sometimes, you know, your obedience is going to show, like your fruit will always show, you know, and these are things that you're doing it, and we shouldn't back down, because it's those very testimonies that are going to help others be like, wait, well, if God did it for them, then that means he can do it for me. But if we stay quiet about it, they're never going to know. And the ones that are jealous, you got to let them be jealous and let God deal with them and say, Lord, just prepare their heart.
And that's something I struggled with. Is it got to the point where I started to feel bad for our success. I started to feel bad because we were able to move out of our bad neighborhood and into here. And I still remember I'm at Target and I'm in the toy aisle and I'm by myself in the toy aisle because for some reason every time I go, I always want to bless my kids with something. It's just, I don't know if it's habit, but we have amazing kids. We have beautiful, amazing, amazing kids. And it dawned on me, I'm like, wait, why is it that I want to bless them so much? It's because at the end of the day, like, they're obedient. They really are. Yeah, we have our little quips with them here and there, but they really are obedient kids. And you can't help it but like want to just give them stuff, like that's just how I am. And so it hit me. I'm like, oh man, God, like it has nothing to do with how hard I work. What you really want. And my wife tells me all the time, she's like, babe, all he wants is your yes. Like, yeah,
Yes.
if my oldest son, if I tell him to take out the trash, he may not think I noticed, but I remember, like, dang, like he'll do it. If my daughter decides to pick up her room and clean her bathroom without me asking, I'm like, dang, like I want to bless her. What more? And that's me, a sinful, fleshly, earthly dad, who loves his kids. What more God?
Yeah.
When all he wants is us to post that video or shoot that podcast, or yeah, that's to me, that's all God really wants. Is he wants you to bless someone with your story, with your testimony, with your extra, even with what you have. Because to me, like that's where like a true test of obedience comes in is, are you really willing to be a blessing to someone even if you're still going through it?
That part.
And that's just always been our heart posture is even if we didn't have it, we'd still give it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do it with the small things, and he trusts you with the bigger things, right?
Amen.
Well, we're going to wrap it with this, but I'm going to give you guys both an opportunity just since we just kind of set this final question up perfectly. And I'm going to let God just take it the way he wants to take it. So God has brought you through a lot, and I'm sure let's face it, there'll be more. It's not all going to be smooth sailing. There's the one thing we know is, though, no matter what it is, he's going to be in it and he's going to take you through it. But with the opportunity of one final blessing on this podcast, just whatever God lays in your heart, how do you want to be a blessing or an encouragement to whoever happens to be listening at this moment in the way that God would lead you?
Wow.
That's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
Man.
Go ahead, Ego.
Whether if someone who's listening to this is saved, if they're not saved, one of the best ways I've seen in my walk with God is to share your story. And if you're saved and you've been saved for 6 months, guess what? There's a guy or there's a girl who's just starting on their journey, and you're 6 months ahead of where they are. And so you may not think you're good enough. You may not think that you're experienced enough, but the time that you've spent, you may not be on your step 100. You may only be on step 30, but you can still help that person who's at step 1 get to their step 30. And so my word of encouragement is, you're never too inexperienced. You're never too early to share your story with someone to help encourage them. And that one of the strongest verses that I've really been clutching on to is that we are set free by the blood of the Lamb and the power of your testimony. And I truly believe that when we go through the hardest things, or if we're going through things, a lot of my sermons have been written on things that I'm going through at the moment. And I've had so much feedback, like, oh my God, you have no idea like how much that touched me because I'm going through it right now. And I'm like, dang, God. And my wife tells me, like, long suffering.
It's a fruit.
Like when you're going through something, share it. Don't bottle it in, because the enemy will use it to completely twist you up and tear you apart. Share what you're going through. Set your pride down and share it, because there's freedom in that. Not just for the person who's listening to it, but for yourself. Like, I felt so much better sharing things that have been heavy on my heart. And it's almost like you find comfort, and with other people, like, you can share and you're stronger together instead of trying to shoulder that same situation on your own. So if anything, I would tell people, share your story, share your testimony, share with your brother, your sister, a friend, whatever it is you're going through, and you'd be surprised that through your pain, you could be someone else's blessing.
Amen. Great one. And how about you?
Well, to become one, that was going to be my thing, but I would say even on those hard days and those trials in the middle of a tribulation, like, give somebody a word of encouragement. Hey, you look beautiful today. Man, I really love that dress. My daughter's so good at doing that randomly. And one sentence, one compliment can bring somebody on the brink of wanting to take their life, wanting to not be here anymore, wanting to just have everything just end. And that's something that, I just experienced. And just because I was obedient, it always goes back to being obedient. Everything that we have talked about today always goes back to obedience. And anyone, maybe you can see somebody out on the street. I will be driving by and I'm like, Lord, bless them. I can see somebody out with a cane or struggling to walk. Lord, heal them. They don't know I'm praying for them. Just do a random act of kindness. It really, it blesses people in a way that they're like, why did you do that for me? But then it makes them wonder why. And you say, well, God blessed me, so I want to bless you. And maybe they didn't know anything about God, but now they're going to inquire about it. And they're going to start talking to God. Well, who is this God? Well, you can just talk to him. It opens up a door. And so just be the light to somebody that maybe is walking in nothing but darkness at the moment. And it'll change everything.
Amen. Well, this has been a great time. I appreciate you guys so much sharing your story. Very easy to interview you because you guys had so much to say, and it just makes it very simple. And I know that it's been a blessing to those who are going to be watching. And I want to encourage you, first of all, subscribe to this podcast if you have not, so you don't miss any of the episodes. And if this has been a blessing to you, you want to make sure that you share this particular episode with someone else that you know needs to hear it. And let me ask you this, for those who have been touched or and encouraged in some way, maybe they just want to reach out to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
What's the best and easiest way to do that?
For our business page is Lifted Productions. It's a picture of me and my wife, so you can't miss it.
On Instagram.
Yeah, on Instagram. And individually, my name is Christopher Saavedra. Same thing. It's a picture of me and my wife. You can't miss it. What's yours?
Mine is lifted_boss_lady.
Okay. I like that. All right.
Yes. If you look up my name, it's gonna direct them to my worship page. So
Gotcha. Okay, so you have a worship page and everything. So that's awesome.
I have
Okay.
like 10 pages.
So I really encourage you to go ahead. I mean, if one of the most encouraging things is just to hear from somebody who was blessed in some way, as has been mentioned. So don't feel like, oh, I couldn't reach out. I'm sure they'd love it if you would.
Please.
Please.
Yeah, please reach out.
Oh yeah, we love praying for people. We have had people message us before. Can you just pray for us? Absolutely.
There you go. So you won't be bothering, you'll be blessing back at the same time. So reach out, share the episode. This has been the Audacious Faith Podcast. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that God can't use you.
Come on.
Have the audacity to believe that he put you on this earth, not just to exist, but to make a difference in the world around you. And we will look forward to connecting with you next time. God bless you all.
Amen.